the wonderful Maya Khosla.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Kurt was talking about the new film Elemental. It's actually going on at Mill Valley Film Festival, and I heard last night, I didn't know this, that there's an online version, so you can watch anything anytime. I think during the festival itself. I want to share a couple of water poems first, because this is Watershed. Everything is the watershed, actually. If you look at any small creek and any more small hillside, it all flows in to some watershed. So really, we are surrounded by parts of a watershed. This poem is about a very interesting mystery. It hasn't been solved yet, and my poems are flying, so I'm going to go rescue them. Four poems decided to take flight. It's good.
It's a good omen.
A mystery about salmon returning after 64 years where they were gone. And it was the king salmon, the Chinook, up in Washington State. And scientists decided, well, let's try doing all this restoration of the creek, and let's try putting the salmon bones at the headwaters. And the salmon came back. Calling the kings back up a river they lost. Oh, by the way, salmon can detect waterborne concentrations as small as 50 parts per billion. That's in martini equivalents. That's roughly 1 drop of vermouth in 500,000 barrels of gin. Pretty sensitive. Calling the kings back up the river they lost. Then we carried crushed fish bones to the headwaters, tossed them in with ash. All the cautious optimism, all the longing from 64 missing years, tossed them in. Winter wrens making their way through the carvings of undercut, a great mass of rootwad. One of us worrying the timing might be off. The dilution factor of bone salts in water could come in under 50 parts per billion, but not saying it. One of us humming. The Willapa salmon might know to migrate the miles, the tender measure of dilution, to swim vertically up the falls, to run a curving line, determination, despite turbulence of tripled flows, bound for beds of gravel. Already the rain and the smaller inflows stirring up a cloudy mud cover for safety, the garden of fallen branches going under, riffles showing white seams, water breaking open, voices over gravel. Already the dark tea of leafy debris, all of it good enough to hide the passage of salmon. Their surge catalyzed into action by the blend of smells, ash and bone, oil of roe, joining leaf rot and silt. The body a vessel, only heart and kidneys remaining shoved to the corners to make room for eggs. Loyalty, a new generation the fish would not see, holding them as one river, opposing the violent onrush of another. The body burning itself down to the essentials of racing. Nothing but the drive, dorsal bones showing through the thunder of tails hitting gravel, a reflex action driving off the silt. One fish sliding, blood red, past a sudden band of sun. The silvers of memory never weakening. bent alders and willows, the interlacing fingers of shade dipping in as mitigating forces, as a way to join silica, the nitrates and phosphates, the language, the crazed and pounding language of return. Oh, thank you, Boris. And this poem is from this new anthology. Sadly, it's not here. I think it's so brand new that it's unfortunately not available yet, but I think it might just be available as of this week. It's called Water's Edge, and Forrest and Lenore Mandison are the co-editors, so I didn't see you. And I have a couple of fire poems. I want to, along with a message that I was talking about this morning. After the fires, everybody thinks it's a great tragedy and everything has ended and nothing's going to come back. And it could not be further than the truth. Everything does come back if it's just left undisturbed. Big if, because for the most part, there's this cleaning out that starts to happen, and that involves a lot of clear cutting. But where it doesn't involve a lot of clear cutting, you can see some amazing new life coming in. My latest finding, I've got these little cameras all over. There are these Reconyxes, and I just leave them out there for months. And I saw Fishers of our weasel family. Have you heard of wolverines?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
yes.
they're smaller than wolverines and bigger than weasels. They're all in the weasel family. And so I got Fisher in my camera. So I want to talk about rejuvenation after fire a little bit. Bear with me if you've heard this before. I like talking about rejuvenation. That burned tree, it's the legacy, it's the beginning. That's a quote from Dominic De La Sala. I was interviewing him and he said, you remember that Monty Python film, I'm Not Dead Yet? That's what the trees want to say. Once we have looked away, once we have mourned and banished all smoldering thoughts about the tribe of blackened trees replacing the known world for now and another season, and maybe another, and the last long fingers of smoke have been ushered out by wind, a ticking begins. No one has seen them arriving in such numbers, but the birds are neither lost nor passing through. They are simply linked tight to the newborn sense of ash and rain, to the promise of white fruits, the riches concealed by bark. So were the ways of ancestors who began their journeys in the distance as specks, riding the miles of smoky gold along a known line of hunger, growing closer and closer, the rufous beat of instinct working a migration upstream against the flow of smoke into the source and its multiple treasures. One new arrival looks bright with hope. He preens his dusk and opal plumage. Others tap as if knocking on doors. The answers have been provided by the ages, long as genetic fibers coiled in every cell, beak and bone, muscle and shiny eye. The living are awake to the growth and profusion soon to follow. They will grow with the colors of all known colors, from the soil's chocolatey darkness, from the trees regreening comes spring, from the blackness. One thing about rejuvenation I want to say is that a lot of the trees that look dead are... Thank you. One thing I want to say about rejuvenation is a lot of the trees that look dead, at least half of them, in one of the fires I was studying, half of them came alive because they were left untouched, and the other half turned into housing complex for the woodpeckers and many other beings. Do I have time for one more?
Go on all night.
going on there. One more poem. I'm going to close on Fog Ode because it's a foggy, well, it's a cloudy day, but it reminds me, just very so moist in the air. Fog Ode. I'm going to close with this one. River without weight, without sound. Serpent, canyon ghost, valley to valley rider, brush strokes slighter than hair across the face of pre-light. Fluids that float until caught on twig, land cloud never diminished for all the dripping that fills underground pools with the abundance of summer drinks for redwood, dogwood, sorrel, and fir. Mist breath, winged current, whitest of air, barely present but for mild subtractions of color. Oak minus depth of green, dawn minus blush, brick minus dusty puce. River of minutes, giver without gravity, silence in a cloak. Fog is listening without an ear. Fog is a memory of the Mississippi, the eel, the Orinoco. More than enough, yet vanishing when sun-dried. Fog is voiceless, sweet water sweeping past needle-tip, thorn-tip, rim of leaf, edges poised to catch a million mist drops. Fog is gauzy sleeves caught against branch or stem, trickling down hollows to pools too dim to reflect the nimbleness of their source. Fog is a cleanser, a sun scatterer, quilt but not quilt. Recaller of streams long past, maker of forests within forests, builder of cathedral groves, taker of nothing but morning sun. No one could fathom you for what you are worth. Thank you.
Thank you to those of you who came out to shiver on behalf of Poetry Flash, poetry, and the environment. I'm honored and delighted to be here reading from Democracy of Fire. And I'm going to show it to you because I want you to judge this book by its cover, which was made by my daughter, a proud graduate of Berkeley High, right there. So scattered through Democracy of Fire is a series of very short prose poems, all of them taken from science news stories. And I'm going to start with a couple of those. Science news, amphibians glow, humans just couldn't see it until now. Someone thought to shine a blue light and discovered brilliance on a tiger salamander's back. Gobs of green. Marbled salamander, Cranwell's horned frog, newt with neon stripes. Their beauty dulled by limitations of the human eye. Possibly such flair serves to unnerve their predators. Silly newts, don't they know how much we cannot see, and yet we stomp everywhere. Science news. Dogs were domesticated once from a lost population of wolves. Old friend, chowing down your easy supper, dream twitching on your doggy bed. Better if you had bared your teeth, cornered and devoured us early, before we swallowed forests, ripped the flesh off mountains, bloodied earth entire. Better if you domesticated us before we turned into this lost population of wolves. So, thank you. So during the worst of the pandemic, when we were all pretty much inside our houses, if we could be, this happened. In Greenland, the ice sheet is pooling like tears into the ocean, while we were too busy planting the fossil beds with our own bones, interred without ceremony. When people die with no one to hold their hands, how can we be expected to mark the end of an ice sheet that melted so fast, suddenly, beyond saving? We have a surfeit of endings we cannot take in our arms, griefs we dare not sing in congregation. We are the sled dogs who slog along tracks, knee-deep in new ice melt, head down and flooded with mourning. All along we mistook a slippery future for something we could walk across, the solid form of water, until it began spilling its dirges into the rhythm of waves. Meanwhile, the gravitational field shifts over Greenland, glaciers become waters, and oceans become troughs for the water's dead weight. Seas rise up, and our children are stranded in their one time to live. The way polar bears swim now with no place to go, exhausted as we are. And during the pandemic, I don't think I ever needed nature more, and I'm guessing that's probably true for a lot of you. I felt very fortunate to be in Northern California, where I could get out into nature. And I wrote quite a few poems about the natural world. Just when. After I choose a rock midway down the slope and sit to watch the ocean, a red-tailed hawk claims the rock below, observes the way I eat my apple, scans the cliffside vetch and wart, launches, pounces on an insect, then retakes its boulder. I'm used to being the only hungry predator here, but the hawk does not seem bothered. It lets me admire its hook of beak, the holstered power in its folded wings, its outside claws resting on the lichen-like size. Two ravens make a showy landing on the rock behind me, thick-billed, close, each squawk a detonation. I get a little bothered, sandwiched between the red tail and the ravens, heads like war hammers. Still, this privilege of sudden beauty, and just when I'd given up on mercy in the world. Science news. A wild bird leads people to honey. African hive, hot with bees. A man with a stick calls through his teeth. The bird comes, honey guide. It finds a hive up where a man can't see, and the man lights his stick to shove smoke into air. Tree axed. Hive smashed. Spilling its frenzy. This is where the sweetness starts. Pond of syrup, meaty wax, open for the bird who learned to be called, the man trained by a bird to share. And this is a poem that was written earlier. It was written in 2016, and I'm sure you all remember what happened in 2016. And the title of it is called, Where Will You Go When Things Get Worse? Surf keeps overwhelming the remains of a fishing boat, beached and abandoned weeks ago. rubbing it to extinction wave by wave, plank by plank. I joke, this must be the ship of state. Humor being a vehicle for escape. If you're an astronaut, you can seek another planet for atmosphere. If you're a wordsmith, you can keep hammering, or else stop and pour the single malt to shake you nightly off your axis. I watch sanderlings, tiny birds who feed on tides, somehow unscathed by pounding, and I imagine flight. But once launched, what Arctic would I land in that isn't melting? At my feet, red carcasses of crabs, a shell being another vehicle that will take you only so far. If you're a crab, you can swim or scuttle or hunker down on your unsettled patch of sand, all 10 legs braced to resist. Thank you, and I'm going to finish with the last poem in the book, and the title poem is a line in this. And this was written during a fire season a few years ago. They're all fire seasons now, but this was the one when PG&E was attempting preemptive blackouts for as long as a week. I'm sure you all remember all our food spoiled and it didn't work. Anyway, at the time we were up in Sonoma County, right after one of these blackouts in the tiny town of Bodega, which is just inland from Bodega Bay, at a little dive bar restaurant, and they had a sign up offering free food. Fire season with rolling blackouts at the Bodega Bar and Grill. After a week of enforced night, light breaks over the pool table. A clack of cues to crack the silence. All that is perishable is gone into 2 dumpsters out back. New on a whiteboard behind the bar, these offerings: pork belly, salmon, short ribs, butterscotch pudding with or without whipped cream. Also, everything is free for fire survivors, first responders, or anyone who needs it to be. Generosity is a poem tonight. The language of kindness to strangers and gratitude to the volunteers whose red engines screamed from the firehouse next door. No one will argue bumper stickers, wonder who arrived with gun racks or rainbow flags, attack a slogan on someone's sweat-stained cap. Just walking through the warped doorway that never keeps the flies out is a celebration of survival, a free offer, a feast, a toast to the shared citizenship of flesh. Here's to the live and kicking, those with hungers and with thirsts, waitresses, barkeeps, cooks, paying customers or not, praying customers or not, sooty cows in 2 dry hills whose shit sustains the flies. Here's to the frantic flies, to all of us powerless, while flames choose what to burn in this raging democracy of fire.
Yeah.
Thank you.